Hello and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Today I'm going on with our full deck challenge and I'd like to welcome all of my new viewers and new subscribers to the channel. Thank you for popping in today. I really appreciate it. And to all my regulars, thank you for your beautiful comments and for constantly encouraging me. I really appreciate it. Now for the full deck challenge, for those of you that are new, we need to alter a playing card once a week, and we need to carry over something from the last card, and we also need to use our constant. So the carryover item from the card last week, which was the Nine of Clubs, is this circle. There's a very strong circle presence on this card. So I'm going to carry over circles, and for my constant I have to use paint swatches. So I've already prepped a couple of die cut paint swatches. So I've cut out some circles, you can see here, that I'm going to use to decorate the card. So let's pop those to the side so we don't lose them. I have already prepped the front of the card, and you can see I pulled out the 8 of Hearts, and I have used some scraps out of my pot here on my desk and just collaged the front of the card and then put a little bit of tissue paper on it, and I've just used Mod Podge. So let's cut that down so that it is ready. So there you go, I've cut down the card and you can see that it just has some random bits of book page on it out of my pot and a couple of sheets of tissue paper, and it's just the wrapping tissue paper, all set with Mod Podge. I'm going to put a little bit of gesso onto this now. So today's prompt is doodle. So I'm really just prepping the card so that I can doodle onto it. I want a little bit of texture on it, but I do want it to have a little bit of background going on. Okay, that's perfect. That's just the look that I was after. I was wanting a background that had a little bit of something going on in the distance, but almost like it had like a rendered or stuccoed kind of appearance on it, as if it's like a textured wall, something like that. I still haven't done the back of the card, but we'll get to that. Now, we're needing to get onto some doodles and some circles. So as I said, I've cut out a few circles, and some of them are like a button, so I might end up do something with that, I don't know. Last night what I did was I prepped a page with some watercolor. I've put some texture into it, so you can see here I have watercolored on orange, sort of like a really deep burgundy red, and then there's a little bit of terracotta in there in some spots. And this was originally a embossed sheet of cardstock that I found in my stash from another project, and it had some embossing on it. So I dropped some watercolor onto it, but then what I also did was, while it was wet and it was quite saturated, I dropped on some rock salt. And you can see the rock salt has absorbed some of the pigment out of the watercolor. And I left it overnight to dry and to absorb some of that. And it's left some lovely texture onto that sheet of watercolor. So what I'm going to do, you can see I've got some circles drawn on the back. I'm going to cut out of this sheet just some of the circles. The circles aren't pure circles. They're just a hand sketch circle that's a little bit like an egg, really. So I'm going to cut those out and use them on the page. So let's just do that. I'm not worrying about it to be perfect. So you can see that now some of the circles are coming together. So let's cut this down and stick it on the back, and we'll stamp the date on it. So today's date is the 3rd of August. Gee, it's getting along, isn't it? There we go. We'll let that just dry for a moment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick these circles onto the card, and I'm going to doodle over them and do some sketching. Let's stick them on. Let's give them a little bit of inking first. I'm just using some vintage photo. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch some dandelions onto it. So let's just put a very soft pencil mark approximately where we're going to have the dandelion. Now the first one, I think I want it on here. The next one, I think I'd like it over here somewhere. Yeah, that will be all right. Let's do it. Let's draw some dandelions. So what I might do now that I've got my shape of my dandelion, I might speed up the video and put it to some music, and you can watch me doodle in some of the lines for the dandelion, and I'll see you back here in a moment. Okay, there we go. I've drawn in the tops of the dandelion. Happy with those. So let's stick down some of our paint swatch circles. I think I'd like to put a little bit of black cotton onto this. So I'll grab that. Okay, I got a little bit of cotton, and I have threaded some cotton into that button and just tied it off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the back on first, because I don't want it to get too bumpy before I stick everything together. So let's glue that on. All right, I'm just going to ink up the edge of the card on both sides, front and back. And I'm purposely doing vintage photo. I don't want any more black on it. I think I've got enough black happening once I put the thread on. I do want to define those edges. Let's stick this little button up the top here. And that's just purely for balance. And I have a sentiment. And the sentiment is just because. Yes, that looks good there. And, you know, it says it all, doesn't it? Why am I drawing dandelions? Why am I doing circles? Just because. A little bit of glue on the back of the sentiment. Position that on there. Let that dry. I'm just going to cut this circle down. And I think what it needs to finish off is a few white splatters just to brighten it a little bit. It could do with some gold. Let's just draw a few little more gold dots Bit more doodling. Yeah, they're cute. Ah, yes, the back of the card looks good too. Okay, let's do a few white splatters. And I'm using Liquitex acrylic ink. Okay, here's our card for Doodle. You can see that I did mini collage on the background. I just stuck down a lot of scraps of book page and music sheet. And then I put over a couple of layers of tissue paper. And then I've cut out some circles. So my carryover item from last week are circles. And I've die cut out and punched out some circles out of my constant, which is paint swatches. And then I did some watercolor and interesting texture techniques on some embossed cardstock, and then doodled some dandelions and some circles. So there we go. There's our card for the week. And today's date's the 3rd of August. And the reason that I did dandelions and circles was just because I wanted to. Let's add this to the family. There's our card number 30. We've got dandelions and circles. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That would be wonderful. And I will see you all very soon with another project. Thanks again, and bye for now.